Hi, this is Anushka Wani, editor for Efficient Manufacturing magazine. We are at the Symposium for Automation and Robotics happening in Pune. We have with us Mr. Ashim Sharma. So let's hear from him about his experience for the symposium. So welcome, sir. So can you, being a part of the session, and you gave a very interesting session on automation and how the Indian manufacturing industry is actually transforming. So can you share your experience with us about it?
Yeah, I think it's great being here. We're seeing the end users of automation being there and sharing their perspective on what their experiences have been, how they are trying to automate, what are some challenges they've seen, also some success stories. At the same time, we also have the makers of the automation equipment here, and they are sharing their perspective on what's new, how they can help different kinds of industries, different sizes of players. So I think, we've seen several thought-provoking discussions today. Happy to be a part of that.
Wonderful. And sir, can you also walk us through how the market dynamics are changing, especially for the manufacturing segment, if we consider? Companies are trying to incorporate more automated technologies. So how is it changing for the Indian market?
I think even if you look at an overall macro level, we are looking at increasing the share of manufacturing in our GDP to 25%, which holds the key to us becoming a developed country, right? And because manufacturing and its multiplier effect on jobs would be necessary for the economic benefits to reach all the strata of society. Now, when we look at our manufacturing sector, we see that in terms of productivity and value addition, we still lag in some areas. And that's because, when we look at, say, the output per employee in manufacturing, we are below where some of our peers are. That means we are doing a lot of manufacturing, but largely it is with low value addition. It's largely labor intensive. And therefore, for us to be able to become more globally competitive, increase the value, we'll need to look at automation, right? Also, if we look at the automation statistic, we are at about 148 robots per 10,000 people employed, whereas the global average is between 160 to 165. We see some of the competing countries being at much higher levels. We've grown very fast in the recent past. We're at about 50+%, but that just takes us to about 8,500 robots installed in the last year, because of the base effect, whereas China has done more than 2 lakh, right? So there is an order of magnitude difference here, and therefore it'll be very important for the industry to embrace this in a bigger manner. Given the structure of the industry, I think for the benefits of this to percolate throughout the manufacturing ecosystem, it's not just the large enterprises, but also the MSMEs which will need to embrace this. And it is here that we'll need to look at sort of more customized solutions like low-cost automation, automation, which is human-led automation, so that we can complement some of the skills with automation out there. We'll also need to look at reskilling of people there so that, they can be able to work in this more automated environment, wherein also data becomes a key, and also so that some of the people can also be redeployed successfully. So that'll also be very key to do. We'll also need to look at, and which is happening in some part with also many startups and other companies which are trying to make more and more of the automation equipment within the borders of the country. That'll also be important in order to also be able to make more customized solutions, offer more closer support and things like that. And lastly, I think we also need to look at which are the sectors, wherein we want to really leapfrog and which can bring our manufacturing scale grow in size, scale, all of that. And that is where we need to look at, precise interventions for improving the automation levels in those sectors. We could also have fixes which are as simple as forming clusters. Like if you look at the Taiwanese tool and die industry, they have clusters wherein a lot of small manufacturers come together and they have a common shared high capex facility, like say a heat treatment facility, right? I think things like that could also be done. Could be started by the government, could also be started by industry associations, industry players coming together. And that way we could also see a percolation of automation happening across the length and breadth of the sector. So I don't think there's one solution for it, but there will have to be a multitude of solutions going in for us to be able to drive automation in the country.
So, sir, since you mentioned about the gaps that are there in the industry, right, where companies do want to automate themselves, right, but there are these challenges that they face. So how can they overcome these challenges?
So I think there are multitudes of challenges that need to be, multiple challenges that need to be sort of overcome. Starting with is the ROI, of automation. Sometimes, it's just simply seen as how many people am I replacing, and then I calculate the ROI. I think it needs to be looked at more holistically, in terms of say quality improvement. Also, is it helping you reach certain sort of quality levels in manufacturing, which can help you acquire a new customer or fend off competition in a particular customer. So, I think a more holistic perspective needs to be taken into account when we are looking at returns on investment of a particular automation equipment. Second is also to look at, how well can it integrate with the legacy systems that are there, and probably some upgrades are needed there as well. Here again, data becomes key because if we are, what gets measured gets done. So, it's important to measure more and more of that data, see how automation is improving it, even to, measure the effectiveness of this automation equipment or the need for it, or also in order to be able to, improve upon, some of the algorithms, because we're also seeing the application of AI ML coming in. So that's there. Third is, I think, also looking at enhancing the skill level of the people that we've been are there, so as to ensure that they can work in this automated environment as well. So that'll also be very key. And lastly, I think the change management aspect that I was saying, I think that also needs to be looked at very carefully, in order to be able to ensure that people don't feel threatened by this, and their skills can be complemented. I think Jidoka, which is used a lot in Lean, is a great example of how workers feel empowered or supported by this automation rather than threatened. So probably some of those principles can also be brought in.
Absolutely. I mean, as rightly pointed by you, that skill management is again something that companies can actually take up. So moving on to my final point, since you were also talking about how India is a booming industry for the manufacturing segment, can you, according to you, tell us that, which are a few of the segments that are actually booming in India and could be the future of India?
So as you saw in my presentation, I talked about 6 key sectors. I think all of them are very important for India, and are booming in the country. If you see the automotive or the mobility sector, I think, we're the 4th largest in the world. We're going there. In terms of renewable energy, which is key for decarbonization as well, we have the 3rd largest installation. We have very aggressive targets of 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. So I think that's again key. Then electronics, wherein, we've grown by taken rapid strides in, say, manufacturing of mobiles and other electronics equipment, and that which, with the increasing complexity of all industries, electronics manufacturing is very key for the country to look at if it has to excel in manufacturing. So that's again a very key sector. Then there is the capital goods sector, which is the key pivot on which all of this, stands. So that's there. Aerospace and defense, which is gaining more and more importance, also given the recent geopolitical tensions, etc., and for self-reliance to come in. That's a key sector. And I think equally importantly, even white goods, where we are a large consumer, we have a large consumption base for refrigerators, air conditioners, being a warm tropical country, and also we're looking at ourselves as being able to export when we look at the rest of the globe. So I think all of these industry sectors are very important. And when you sort of double click on each of these, you'll find say the tool and die industry, which goes across many of these sectors, will become important, so on and so forth. So I don't think we can do too much of cherry picking amongst these. It's important to focus on all of these if we are looking at, say, a 25% share of GDP coming from manufacturing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for summarizing all of the details and information for us, and for giving us your valuable time. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
Thank you.